Welcome back to the Equipping ELLs podcast, the show that helps you simplify your support systems and confidently meet the needs of your English learners. Today, we're talking about one of the most common stress points in teaching ELLs. Do you know what it is? Differentiation. If you've ever stared at a lesson and thought, how do I teach this at grade level and support my newcomers? Or what even counts as differentiation for language learners? Or how do I do this without creating 5 different versions of the same lesson? You're not alone, and this episode is for you. Let's break down a simple, repeatable ELL differentiation framework that works in real classrooms and won't leave you overwhelmed or exhausted. Are you ready to dive in? Let's get going. I want to address why differentiation for ELLs feels so hard, right? This differentiation word has been around forever. We've all been trained in it. We know how to differentiate, but sometimes when it comes to ELLs, it feels just a little bit harder. It feels a little more overwhelming. I want to validate something first. It is hard, but it doesn't have to stay that way. All right. ELL teachers are constantly juggling proficiency levels, can-do descriptors, content expectations, language supports, and trying to make it all work for your 10 plus students all at once. It can feel like you're spinning plates while lesson planning, right? And I know 10 students at a time is conservative for some of you. I know you're servicing more than that, but it doesn't matter whether you have 2 students or 20 students. When you have different language needs in the same class, it can feel really overwhelming. You don't need to create 5 different lessons. What you need is one strong plan with tiered supports and flexible output based on what your students can realistically do. It's all about intentional and purposeful planning. And that's where our 3-step differentiation framework comes in. If you've been around here, or if you're new around here, if you've been here around here for a long time, you know that we are all about what practical ways can you show up and support your ELLs in less time but make an impact. And so this framework is going to help you do exactly that. So let's dive in. The first thing is you need to know their language level and what they can do. This is one of the things I see the most where we're just losing a lot of precious time with our students and we're pushing them to frustration or disengagement because we don't know where they're at and we don't know what's appropriate for them. So you really do need to start with data. Even if you're using access scores that were 6 months ago, don't get me started on that. Start with something. Start with your access scores and see what language levels are they at for each of the domains. Okay, so start with the data. Start with WIDA or other language proficiency levels, but let's take it a step deeper. Because you might see that your students this group is at a speaking level 3. Great, but what does that mean, right? That is not going to help guide your lessons at all if you don't know what to expect at a student that's at a language level or speaking level 3. So the next thing you want to get clarity on is using the can-do descriptors. Now, even if you're not in a WIDA state, this is going to be helpful for you to know what should a student at this language level be able to do. You want to know what your students can do by domain. You want to know what types of supports they need, and you want to know how to set realistic expectations. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. The language learning journey is a long journey. For me, it's been a lifetime. So this could go on for a long time. So this is why having very clear and realistic expectations for your students on what they need to work on is going to be one of the best ways that you will see growth with your students when it's very targeted instruction. They will also build the confidence that they need to continue on this long language learning journey and not give up. What we see is so often we're not giving our students what they actually need. It's either way too watered down and easy, or it's way too difficult, and so they disengage. They don't want to do it anymore. They feel stupid about it. They feel like they're never going to get there. They feel like their teachers don't really expect much out of them because they're just giving them coloring sheets to fill time. That's not what we want. Know your language levels of your students and figure out what can they do. What is appropriate for that language level? For example, a level 1 student may be labeling or pointing. That is unlocking their skills of how they can access what you're teaching. That is okay. That is appropriate for them. A level 3 student may respond with a phrase or by using a sentence frame. That is okay. You're giving them the tools to engage with what you're teaching. A level 5 student may compare, justify, or summarize with academic vocabulary. That's an appropriate expectation for that language level. Now, if you're thinking, I'm working with level 5s, they can't do that. Well, guess what? There's what you're teaching. You're going to teach them and model and show how are they going to compare and justify or summarize with academic vocabulary. It's telling you exactly what you should do. And if they're at a level 5, they should be able to do it. So you're going to help them get there. Now, if you want help with this, we have taken the can-do descriptors and we have broken them into ways that are way more friendly to use, way more visually appealing. You can quickly and easily see K through 12, your grade level, the language domain, and you can see what should you expect at the levels. We've done this work for you. You can go ahead and find that at inspiringyounglearners.com/WIDA, download that and get started right away. It's something I highly recommend to print, laminate. It's going to be one of your go-to tools when you're working on differentiation for your students. So once we have that, we want to get on to step 2, which is to use one content goal and adjust the supports. Like I said, you don't need 5 lesson plans. You need one strong anchor lesson with scaffolded access points. So using things that are going to help your students unlock that anchor lesson. Things like word banks for newcomers, sentence stems for intermediates, academic frames, and extensions for advanced ELLs. Think of what your anchor lesson is going to be. Is it going to be a read aloud? Is it going to be a passage? Is it going to be a video? Is it going to be a podcast? Something where they're listening, they're learning content, they're taking it in, and now you're going to find the different ways that you can bring in access points to unlock their understanding of that content that's appropriate for their language level. Things like tiered vocabulary cards, listening and writing scaffolds, visuals, those types of things built into your lessons are going to help be access points for your students to unlock the understanding of your anchor lesson. So we don't need to repeat 5 different lessons. We have our anchor lesson, and then we scaffold off of that. The last thing is to differentiate the output, not the content. All students can meet the objective. They'll just show it in different ways. So this is where I see a lot of teachers get caught up in doing a variety of different lessons depending on the number of students and the number of language levels that they're working with. But the reality is you can keep the objective and just change the output. And that is going to help you scaffold and differentiate based on your students. So for example, let's say our objective is to describe the life cycle of a butterfly. Our newcomers, they might label it with a visual support. Maybe they draw the butterfly, maybe they have the pictures that they put in order and they label the words with a word bank. Those things are appropriate for a newcomer and they can show you the life cycle of a butterfly. Now for an intermediate, you might give them some guided sentences. So maybe they have some of the words that they need in order, but they're going to create a paragraph of the order of the life cycle. Or maybe you still give them that visual support, but they have to come up with the vocabulary. For your advanced students, you might have them write a full paragraph with a compare and contrast. So have them choose a moth versus a butterfly, have them do some research and some reading and create a compare and contrast. Do you see how all of the objective has stayed the same, but the output is going to be different depending on the group that I'm working with? Focus on how they show learning, not what they're learning, okay? At the end of the day, them knowing the life cycle of the butterfly is not the important thing here. What we want to see is that they're engaging with it, they're learning the language, they're developing the skill so that they can increase their language over time. They're also building the confidence. That's what matters, that they're retaining what we're teaching them. Let's walk through a lesson example so you can see this framework in action. We're going to start with an anchor text, like I said. Now, this could be a video, a short podcast, a passage, a news article, a read aloud. There are so many different ways that we can use one solid anchor text or audio support to really unlock a lot of language development. So whole group, even if you're working with newcomers to advanced students, whole group, I'm going to read this, I'm going to show the video. While I'm doing that, I'm going to be modeling constantly modeling, talking out loud, stopping and pausing. Now, I recommend to preview whatever you're going to be using and make sure that you put down your sticky notes of where you want to pause and model and highlight vocabulary and show some mentor sentences. Because if you don't, one, you might miss out on really great opportunities that are teaching for them. And two, you might stop too much where for ELLs, it can really truncate what you're doing and not really their comprehension. Then they lose the comprehension because you've stopped so many times. You might even want to read through the whole book once without stopping at all and then go back again, or watch the whole video once without stopping and then go back. While you're modeling, you want to do things like preview and highlight vocabulary, pause for think alouds, use visual or gestures for comprehension. So have your students respond as they're listening. Maybe you have them have 3 vocabulary words, and when they hear that word, they're going to hold up their vocabulary word. Or maybe you have pictures of characters, and when they see that character in the story, they're going to hold up that character. So engagement here, you find fun ways for them to get engaged with the text, your anchor text. And then you want to reinforce those academic sentence frames. So highlighting different passages, highlighting different things in the story is going to be a huge way for them to see it in context. Now we break into small groups for differentiated tasks based off that anchor text. So group 1 might listen to the story again and answer oral comprehension questions with visuals. That is a great exercise for a newcomer group. Group 2 might practice a grammar skill that's embedded in the text. So maybe in the text I highlight, past tense verbs or prepositions, and they're going to go work more in depth on that grammar skill that I've already introduced in that anchor text. And then group 3 is going to do a reading paired passage with a similar theme and comparing it to the original. So we're bringing that connection piece in each of those scaffolded groups back to the anchor text. They're already getting a ton of vocabulary. They're already getting a ton of background understanding and knowledge. And now they're doing something that's appropriate for them at their language level that connects to our content. Finally, we come back together to complete a differentiated writing prompt based on language level. We always want to bring that writing piece in the end, because if we avoid it, they're never going to get better at writing. But if we do really small, bite-sized writing samples, they will get better at it and won't be so scary for them. As you can see here, each group is working toward the same goal, but they're using the supports that meet them where they are. That's differentiation with clarity, consistency, and confidence. Now, we have a ton of these types of read aloud activities, conversation prompts, writing routines, all bundled up in one for all the holidays, seasons, culturally diverse topics. You can check those out inside the Equipping ELLs membership if you're interested. Just a reminder, let's recap the ELL differentiation framework. 1, know what students can do at their language level. 2, keep your content whole, adjust the access and the output. 3, use structured routines and scaffolds to simplify your planning. When you start with student needs, not curriculum pacing, you build language, confidence, and independence. And the best part, you don't have to build it alone. Everything we talked about today, from read alouds to graphic organizers to conversation scaffolds, is already inside the Equipping ELLs membership. We would love for you to come join us. You can use the code TAKE10OFF to get 10% off to your 3 monthly or yearly plans. Want a simple way to understand what your students can do right now? Like I mentioned, you can download our can-do descriptors that are simplified to really help you have insight into what you should expect for your students at each language level. If this episode brought clarity to your differentiation process, we would love for you to share with a teammate or co-teacher who supports ELLs, and you can join our newsletter for weekly encouragement and tools. Just a reminder, you can support your ELL in your classroom, and we're here to help you do it without the stress. Until next week, bye for now.